Hi, Rajat. Good morning.
Good
Hey,
morning, sir.
great,
Great to see you again.
great to see you, and a beautiful background you have there. Is that AI generated?
I think so, but I was actually able to bring it in a realistic view, into the wallpaper format. So this is, I hope for the audience, it's not like causing like funny lines that you sometimes get or something like that. So I kind of like it. I kind of like it. It's really cool. It's kind of like this '70s retro vibe, and
No, it's
I
great,
thought it
and I
would be
didn't
fun to have
even
it.
know that AI already is so far advanced that you can like print the virtual background, print it, and just hanging on the wall. I mean, that's great.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Uh,
Yeah, you see what all the marketing guys are working on and developing for us, stuff that
yeah.
we need and we don't need. So kind of like fun.
Yeah, we do that. We're good at that. Okay, so Rajat, great to have you here again, and thanks for taking the time. So last time you and I spoke, we discussed about the expectations of a CEO to a CMO and to the marketing organization overall. And one of the things that stuck with me was that you mentioned that the role of the CMO is not only evolving, but is changing massively. And everything is basically turned upside down, mainly due to AI, so artificial intelligence. And you also mentioned that you can automate a lot of the things that used to be done by human beings in the past, and a lot of things are much easier, more cost efficient, more effective, and everything. And I remember that you and I had a conversation also after our talk, and I was talking to a couple of people who viewed our podcast. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, I thought
By the
let's
way, I
try
have
ourselves.
to I have to thank the audience for that. We got some really, I would say, great feedback. And considering that it was our first podcast together, I really have to admit I was also surprised that we got the audience that we got. Right, so we actually had marketing folks looking at the stuff, and I'm really thankful and grateful for those of you who spent the time and checked it out. That it was bringing some value to what you guys are doing out there, because I think it's really important that whenever you're working in a team environment, that we're not ending up as, let's call it free electrons. Everybody kind of doing something themselves. So I don't know how the feedback you got from the last one, Christian, but
No, it
I
was
can
good.
tell you.
Was good feedback and quite really interesting insights, especially about like because a lot of marketing people hear and read a lot about what other marketing people think what is
Yeah,
expected from marketing. But it's great,
that's
and
so
this is
true.
exactly our purpose and what we wanted to start with is like what
Yes.
are business owners, what are CEOs expecting from marketing. So
Yeah.
that's pretty good.
No,
And
that's
so
really true, and I think it really makes sense, Christian, to sometimes step out of the bubble, right? So it's
mm,
kind of like otherwise you're regurgitating your own truth, and
yeah,
that sometimes is then catching up to you, and is not really exactly what's helping you to actually make the numbers, make the figures, which actually turn the wheels of the company and stuff, right?
absolutely,
So yeah, it
absolutely.
was. I mean, the feedback I got, ended up meeting with some of our old colleagues, and or ex-colleagues, and it was fantastic. They actually said, "Hey, we watched your podcast," and I'm like, "Oh my god." you know so sometimes it's really strange to hear that, but it was really positive. Every feedback I got was positive. So Christian, I think we must be doing something right over here, and therefore we decided to, let's try it out one more time, and
Okay.
see where the journey takes us.
Exactly. And two of the things actually that came up during discussions I had afterwards, and I also have like with customers and multiple companies I'm talking to, is basically two main challenges or two big challenges that overall organizations have, and especially organizations looking at marketing, looking at go-to-market. And one of that is like how to set up an effective go-to-market model internationally, so in a number of countries. And the second thing is, of course, AI. Well, everybody's talking about AI all over the place. I mean, you cannot really avoid it. And so yeah, also to the audience. So what Rajat and I discussed then was, okay, let's look a little bit more into the details and give some also practical thoughts on the challenges, on what works with AI, what not. Because so far, a lot of the discussion is either it's complete hype. So you see a lot of things where people are saying, well, everything is beautiful and great. And then you see some critics who are saying everything is a disaster and we will all die. And
I
probably the
like, by
truth,
the way, this German saying something like "Alles wird gut." So,
exactly. And probably
everything
the
will be
truth is in the
fine.
middle.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
No, I think it's absolutely true. And you know what I really like the combination is, with the let's say the international background, that I'm lucky to have, and the one that you have been promoting and focusing on quite a bit, and now going into the automation and the AI and so on and so forth. I mean, it's a completely new ball game, right? So people, if I can give one recommendation, just get AI somehow engaged. It's not fully there yet, right? We're not there where we need to be, and I think it will take some time until the models are trained and so forth. And whether you're working still within the intercultural aspects or international aspects or so, it will still take us time to get there. So make sure that you get, I would say, the right people to be working on it, right?
yeah.
And I know, Christian, you're quite familiar with what all is going on, also from your past experiences and so on and so forth. So um, if there's any questions, if there's any comments or whatever it is, Christian's address directly. You can also find me also in LinkedIn and so forth. So there's direct access. Comment, feedback. I don't want to say subscribe and da da da. Yeah, the general stuff that people say,
Of
but
course.
really, of course. So please subscribe to Christian's channel. And no, but really, if you guys are connecting, and giving feedback, let's build up this community, and let's make sure we do some good things. Both for the how AIs are going to be evolving in the future, because now is the time, right? Now is the time to define it out.
Yeah, absolutely. And while we talk about AI, I remember one of the things in our last conversation you mentioned is that, okay, the life of CMO, and I mentioned that before, is changing completely. So is it really that AI is disrupting the life of a CMO completely?
I I would love to say absolutely yes,
Mhm.
but I know that there will be CMOs out there who are going to be watching this. They will say, I don't know, let's wait and see, and so forth, right? So you have this curve of the Gaussian curve. You have the early adopters, and then you have the fast followers, and then you have the general, let's say population in the middle, and then you have the laggards, So it's I would say it's going to be a typical curve on it. And again, I would like to repeat what I stated last time as well. It's not the AI that's going to replace the marketing people. It's the marketing people using the AI that are going to replace the marketing people, right? So we just need to make sure, and that's true also for the sales. That's true also for product management. That's true also for purchasing, right? So it's
Mhm.
across the board. But one of the things we need to kind of get in our mind is that AI is not an AI, right? So when people are thinking about AI, they're thinking about, oh, okay, ChatGPT or Perplexity or, OpenAI doing something new or something like that, right? In reality, the AIs are almost always purpose built, right? It's like they're kind of like us, you're training them, and how you train them is what they learn, right? So, in quintessence, you can start with two very similar models, but as the AIs are learning, as they go into the company, it really depends on the CMO and his team, how they train those AIs. What is it the expected outcome? Because that is how then it's going to be, once implemented, that's how the results are going to be coming out and stuff.
Mhm.
I had a funny aha moment. It was kind of like, currently it seems a lot of companies are training their AIs in a very similar manner, right? So we were just joking around about it to say, okay, wouldn't it be funny that if you end up, at, let's say, a marketing arena, or like a show or something like that, and everybody has trained from the same AI. They got the same concepts out, and so forth. And then, effectively, you end up with these cookie cutter house concept, right? Everything looks the same. Every one of those has the same messages across it because the AI is behind it. We're learning.
Yeah.
So in reality, that will not be the case. In reality, it will be how you're training your AIs, and not just relying on the standard market stuff that's out there, but really making it your own, right? Training your own and ensuring that the studies and so forth go on to be your own. And it will take time. It will take, it's a process. It's a journey, and that's one of the things I love about the Japanese sayings. And I think, Christian, you can probably even, from your international marketing experience, you can bring that forward. The goal is often the journey, right? It's like the way the path you're
Mhm.
taking and so forth, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same scenario here. I mean, we're living in a very interesting and a wonderful age, and either you love it or you're sitting there scared, and you're hiding in the shell.
Yeah. But isn't this exactly the challenge, or exactly like the change in mindset that people perhaps also need to do? Is so on the one hand side, yes, look into AI and where the possibilities, especially in, I would say, in healthcare, logistics, they are in many areas, and in
Yeah,
reporting, data analytics. I think there are a lot of opportunities. But in conversations I'm having with companies, is there are a lot of people who are saying, some people are saying, okay, it's all a disaster, complete disaster areas. I avoid it. I shut my eyes. I don't understand it. I don't want it. And then you have some people who are saying, yeah, that's all great. And tomorrow AI will do everything, and I will lay on the beach with a cocktail in hand and enjoy the sunset. And probably this will not work, because especially like you said, there will not be such a marketing campaign which five companies look the same. Well, let's bet about a good bottle of wine, because I'm saying we will see those campaigns and we'll have a good
yeah,
laugh about it. Because when you see at the moment a lot of the messaging that some companies are using, you have like, I don't know, I don't want to mention any name now, but you have companies in a similar business, and then you look at the advertising, the messaging, even messaging on events. It's basically, it looks pretty much the same, because a lot of people are looking into AI, asking the question, saying, okay, this is my offering, this is what we can do, this is what we can't do. Give me the target audience, give me the
yeah,
messaging, give me the positioning. And then it turns out, surprise, surprise, that it all looks pretty much the same. And isn't it
yeah,
that there is a bit of like the risk that and we hear this term a lot about outsourcing our brains. And I feel very uncomfortable, to be honest, if somebody says, okay, I need to outsource my brain to whatever platform it is, to whatever agent. So don't you see a risk also there that, I mean, we're not anymore thinking about a challenge. We're not going to the drawing board, having a conversation with colleagues, with customers, but we're just opening a window and asking whatever AI agent, and then we take this for granted. Don't you see a
yeah.
risk there?
No, I think you're absolutely right. And but I would like to point out, there was a interview I was watching from Sam Altman, that and he was saying that, and excuse me if you already heard this the last time, but I think it's worth to repeat it. Let's say there was calculators, right? And everybody said, oh, the kids are not going to learn anymore how to add 2 plus 3 or complex calculations regarding, I do not know, multiplication or division or something like that, right? And this was kind of like the scare. And then in the 80s, early 80s, the PC became popular, right? So IBM made fantastic efforts, and then you had the clones, and then you had the Apple, which was coming out with their models, and there were tons of others, as well. And then everybody was kind of like, oh, what are we going to do, right? And now the PC is going to do everything for us. I
Mhm.
mean, we're not going to need typewriters anymore. I just use it as a silly example. And look where we are, right? So we are kind of now in the age of AI. And I'm now skipping a lot of steps in between, right? But just to bring a point home. Um, Outsourcing of the brains, we as species, we as human beings, will always be thinking about what's next, right? And this is kind of the resilience of us as humans. I think will always, kind of drive us to do the next thing. So my feedback to the people is, don't be afraid. I mean, you have to do things in a responsible way. We're trying to do things in a responsible way. Will everybody adhere to it? Probably not, right? But it is what it is, right? So we just need to kind of take care that the parts that we are working on, that we are doing it responsibly, we're bringing it forward, and that the fact that there's value in what is actually being created that's out there, right? So think back to the calculators, think back to the PCs. Now we're within the AIs. So to answer your question, Christian, in a succinct way, I don't think I can agree with you that we are outsourcing the brains, right? I think that is just fear that is being propagated, but in reality, I think the story is elsewhere.
No, it's a good point that we need to be well, have a reasonable approach to that. Like, be open, but be also realistic. It's just, and I'm fully with you on this one.
I agree, Christian, because you remember the discussion I said about the Gaussian curve.
Yeah.
You will have early adopters, you will have fast followers, then you will have the general population, and you will have the laggards. If you want to oversimplify this stuff here, right? It doesn't mean that the people who are, let's say, sitting within the general population, that that they are closing their eyes or something like that. I think they're just sitting on the fence and watching to see, okay, what is the best for me and what is the thing. And for those of you guys, I would like to give you one hint. The best way to learn in life is experience, right? And you have to learn it. You have to make your experience. You will make mistakes. You have to be forgiving and moving beyond it, and look for the next day. Look for those opportunities, right? Don't only get hung up on, okay, I had a failure, now I had a setback, and that's it. Now you got to stop it, right? You're learning from your experiences faster than something that somebody can teach you within the books. It's just like driving or so, right? Unless you're driving the cars yourself or vehicles yourself, you don't have that feeling as you would just get in a simulator or just by studying the books, how to, like an operations manual. And AI within the marketing context is exactly the same. You gotta try different things. You have to do the concepts. You have to work it out. You have to run your simulations, and then from there, take a look into where the journey goes.
Yeah. But I'm fully with you, and definitely with all the technology and a lot of things, we have these early adopters and seeing this curve. Let me throw in one example of maybe
is it a
some
curveball
people...
or is it a straight question?
No, that's a straight question. Well, that's it's a straight question and a challenge.
For those
At
of you in
least,
the audience, Christian and I go way back in terms of working together and so forth, and Christian does have a tendency, every time he says that, there's a tendency you have to be like, your ears perk up, because you're like wondering, okay, what's coming next, right? So it could be exciting, or it could be like, oh, shucks, what was that? So go
yeah,
for it, buddy.
Okay, on this one, I read just a couple of days ago. I read a post from a guy, I will of course not mention the name, who was doing a post on LinkedIn and saying, okay, to all those laggards, to all those old-fashioned, boring guys who are not using AI on LinkedIn posts, look what I'm doing. And then he was listing, I think it was 5 or 6 tools, AI tools, that he's using for every LinkedIn post. He's doing every day at least one post. He's using, as I mentioned, 5 different tools. He's completely automated that. He said he's spending 0 time with it. Even the commenting, if somebody's doing comments or when he's doing comments on other posts, this is done by AI. This is
So where is he
completely...
spending the time? Is he spending the time on the beach most of the time, or is he
I don't know
spending the
what
time?
he's doing, but now comes the crazy thing. I would call this circular insanity, because this is like, it's just AI talking and writing for AI. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
But the crazy thing is that this guy has 106,000 followers on LinkedIn.
Okay.
I don't know if he's earning any money from those, because 100,000 followers means nothing in terms of business. But it's crazy that obviously, are those 106,000 followers all people who are having AI agents who are also managing their LinkedIn account, or is it real who are reading that? Because my take is, and my bet would be, that this guy has no clue what he's posting. He lets AI
Yeah.
for him, but he doesn't know it. And this is kind of what is crazy. So this why I'm the
But
challenge.
Christian, the thing comes down to really is, and I really want to touch on this topic around followers and so on and so forth, right? I mean, in some contexts, yes, you feel the need that you have to be, I do not know, happy if you have tons and tons and tons of followers, right? But the question really comes down to is, what is really that you're doing to create the value for them? If it's just an AI making a post, and the value creation is limited, then I would say, re-examine, right? Because I think just to have content out there, at the end of the day, a lot of times the people are making the business, right? And if the purpose of the marketing or going into international marketing, especially, your purpose is to be able to reach it, right? Reach these people and make sure that they're doing business together with you and so forth. And of course, for all some of you out there, yes, the certain businesses can be automated, right? Procurement processes can be automated, sales processes can be automated, and stuff like that. But the majority of the business is still out there with people, right? And majority of the people, they're looking at it, and if it's looking too perfect, if it's looking too um, everything is dotted and crossed, the t's are crossed and the i's are dotted, and it's somehow loses its charm, right?
Yeah,
Maybe
that's
call me old style. Yeah, I mean, I still like to hear the records, with their little, noise in it or so. But on the other side, I absolutely love the AIs, right? So for me, I'm a big proponent of AI, and that's also what we are kind of, based our whole concept for our company and stuff. We are doing that as well, right? But I think if it's just everything is just done by AI, and on the other end, it's only the AI that's reading this information and then, commenting on it, and I don't know. I mean, yeah, we have to see. So maybe we need to set some thresholds. Is it 10,000 followers for this podcast, or 100,000 followers, or something like that? We'll have a big party or something like that. Then,
yeah,
if that's how we measure success. But I
yeah.
think for me, what is personally interesting is if we are able to positively impact, let's say, a handful of people, where they can get a benefit out of what we are working on and what we're discussing. I think that's already a good measure of success, right? So you have to make success, you have to do it for people, and you have to do it one step at a time, and that's the way it is, right?
Exactly, and this is a good point you're raising. There is that still the human side, and I'm happy that you say that, because of course you're doing a lot of business with AI and you're in favor, and I know you've always been one of the earlier adopters on everything that is new, which is great, and giving advice to other people. But it's great that, I mean, it's still the human aspect, and especially, and this is also what both of us are trying to do, like here with this podcast, but also with our businesses and talking to customers, is basically helping with our experience, with the experience of our people, to help help companies to progress and make use of new tools or not, or new processes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's always AI cannot not fully replace all of that. So
Absolutely.
especially with
And by the way, our knowledge is limited to our experiences as well, right?
absolutely.
So there's a lot of new stuff that's out there and stuff, and by no way we are saying, that now here is the ultimate authority, right? Go out,
Mhm.
check it out. Absolutely, right? Augment what we are discussing here, together with your experiences, together with your findings and so forth. And, do let us know as well what you see that's out there, and let us give you feedback, or our thoughts at least, give us an opportunity to share that.
Yeah.
So do give us feedback if you think that there's something that's out there that's absolutely magical. If I put that in quotes, so it would be something also fun for us to learn as well, right? So it's
Absolutely.
always a learning process. But I
Yeah.
hope that we are also bringing value to you, as listeners for this podcast as well.
Yeah.
So, but
Yeah.
it's important. You're absolutely right, Christian. So. No, but coming back to the point, is AI really disrupting the life of the CMOs, and how is it going to be going? And the answer is absolutely. Will all the CMOs adapt it from the day number one? No, simply because of the way the Gaussian curve works in life, right?
Yeah.
Will the people who adopt things faster, will that give them a competitive advantage? In my personal opinion, the answer is yes, right?
Mm.
Because simply they will have more experience, right? They will have more experience trying things out and seeing what works, what sticks, and then going with it and running with it, right? So that's kind of the way the life is.
Yeah. Oh, that's good, and especially like trying things out. And it's a good point what you're saying, that like trying things and and everybody is going through a different learning curve. There's not one truth. There are multiple truths, and for every company, for every person, it's different. And the important message, I think, is that still people, although they're using a lot of, even if you're using a lot of AI, still keep your brain running, keep your brain active.
Absolutely.
It's coming out.
Absolutely, because I think once that part is there's a cartoon I was watching I do not know a while back or something like that, where this robot is basically having the human in his arms and just cooing it like a baby, and it's like, oh, my little human, everything is fine, everything will be great and okay.
Yeah.
I think from that time we're still a little bit far away, but I think that will happen only if we allow it to happen, right? So,
Yeah, yeah,
but I mean, I know it gives you a funny imagery in your in your mind
yeah,
with that, but
yeah,
yeah. But believe me,
absolutely.
it's only possible if you let it, if you let it happen, right? Is that good for us? I don't know.
Absolutely, and we shouldn't like use them as babysitter for everything. But coming back to the point about like how AI is changing like life of CMO and marketing. So a lot of the talk is, or one of the low-hanging fruits, some people even say, is that AI can help marketing to move to more data-driven decisions. So instead of like gut feeling and not knowing where I'm wasting money, where the ROI is and everything, having more data-driven discussion. Now, although I tend to agree with that, and definitely tools help, and all the tools we had 5 years ago, 10 years ago, every tool, a lot of tools like helped us doing better analytics, having a better understanding how we spend our money, what the return is. But the interesting thing is that a lot of, even talking to AI experts or fans, and even asking ChatGPT, Cloud, and all of them themselves, saying, okay, please help me now analyzing marketing data. And always the response is, okay, yeah, give me your first party data and then I analyze it for you. I'm saying, okay, wait a second, isn't that the big issue? Because we're also 5 years ago, before AI, we didn't have a lack of tools, but we had a problem with the data quality. And now, don't you see a risk that, or a challenge at least, that a lot of companies are jumping on AI, buying tools, buying AI or hiring AI experts, and then expecting they get good answers, whereas the data they're using is just rubbish?
Yeah.
Or am I
So
over?
it's not only about the data that they're using, Christian. I will add something else to this equation, right? Um, one of the questions that often comes up in my discussions together with customers and potential customers and so forth is, um, we don't have our processes documented, right? So the question first comes in is, why is this data mess happening? And part of the reason is because at that time, let's call it sometimes in the past, when the data was being gathered, it was simply gathered because of the process that existed or what made sense at that time, right?
Mhm.
That may or may not be still applicable. Okay. So, in my opinion, what AI is able to do is you can give it certain parameters. You can tell it where the, let's call it, the guardrails are regarding the data, right? You can tell it what it's allowed to do and not allowed to do. Uh, and what the AI will then do is it will help you to sort it out, clean it out, and stuff. Will it be 100% clean? Probably not, right? But then you can make certain interpret decisions, and then within your process loop, you can implement, for example, human in the loop concepts, where before you execute on the final decision, you have a human in the loop, which is then doing, let's call it, the last check to make sure that things are going to get done sanely, right? So it's not only about the data. The second thing, what happened, or at least the trend I saw 5 or 7 or 10 years ago, was there was a massive move towards, well, let's create large data lakes, right? Let's put all the data in there, and then at least we know everything is in one place.
Mhm.
Christian, guess what ended up happening? We ended up with data swamps. Most of the companies who did that ended up with data swamps. So, yes, is all of their data in one place? Absolutely, right? Is it kind of somewhat sorted or so? Maybe, you know. Can they use it a fully 100% now and make all their data-driven decisions? Probably not, right? So
Mm,
the technology in the meanwhile has gotten so much better that you can have, dispersed data. You can have data at multiple locations. You just need to explain to your AI to say, hey, go there, 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 and there,
mm,
right? And then fetch the data. Why? Because a lot of times, your data will be dynamic. Okay. Whether you're looking at, for example, currency rates, whether you're looking at, I do not know, some commodities pricing or something like that, that needs to feed into your models or so, that your needs to feed into the marketing models, right?
mm,
All of the stuff here needs to be potentially done in real time, and this is the kind of stuff that we, for example, are working in, also the stuff you and I were discussing about for some of the guys who are trying to collect data from different international sources or so, right? So you have the DACH head, or you have the EMEA head, or you have the SVP or VP of larger region or something like that. This is their challenge, right? I've got all this data, I don't know what to do with it, right?
mm,
Normally, I would say, well, how do you want to tackle it, right? But you really need to figure out how did they end up in the situation which they did, right? So in this so-called data swamp,
yeah.
because once you're able to do that, because your AI still needs to learn it, right? You cannot just throw amounts of data to it and then just say, okay, good luck,
Mm.
go sort it out.
No, absolutely makes sense, and I think there's huge potential. I like specifically what you said before. Is like always keep like how do you call it, the human in the middle, like
Yeah,
having a human
human in the loop.
somewhere. Now, how would you, or how do we encourage people to like keep their brains fully active and not rely fully on AI? I give you an example. For this is examples some time ago. I did some like customer 360 profiling for a company, for a number of accounts in multiple countries around the world.
Hmm.
And then doing some analytics about, okay, who are the most important people, who are influencers, who are blockers, and everything, like giving sales the complete 360 view of this customer.
Yeah.
And then over a coffee chat with one of the account managers of one of those customer companies, um, like when we went through some historic data about addressing this customer and so on, he stumbled over one name and said, okay, but why was this guy removed 2 years ago from all communication from marketing? And then at that time, the people who are managing the data basically said, well, based on like automated processes and the CRM and everything, we got the information that this guy is not relevant because he was a low level purchasing guy, didn't appear anywhere, didn't have a LinkedIn profile, and so on. And then the account manager said, well, what are you doing? This is one of the best friends of the CEO of this company. He's kind of the CEO whisperer for a lot of projects.
Mm.
So why the heck are you taking him out? And this is where, I mean, we need to avoid that now with AI. AI is doing that even more automated and even with even less human interaction, that people are more relying on those automated profiles. And then like this important guy who was the CEO influencer is completely
Yeah.
ignored.
Yeah.
So he's probably the most important target group.
I mean, believe it or not, Christian, AIs, depending on how they learn, they do end up, whether it's by accident, whether it's by purpose, whether it's just by design, whether it's simply because somebody was not thinking or so, biases will end up happening, right?
Hmm.
And this is the reason why I would say guardrails within the processes and within the checks and balances for the AIs are so relevant, right? And I'm happy that at least here where we are living today, that this topic is very important for the people who are making the laws and so forth, right? But I think at the end of the day, the question then again comes down to is who should be accountable when the AI design is being done, right? But I think that's a topic for another day, and I think that's a big topic in itself, right? But coming back, do AIs have biases? In my opinion, during the process and the 4 or 5 elements that I have given earlier, I do believe that AIs will tend to set up a certain biases, and it's just that once they go into that learning mode, it will actually just potentially even exponentially grow the biases. But also, it's not something that you can easily then say, okay, don't worry about that. You can put guardrails against certain biases that the AIs will come up with. But net is it is a fact of life that will happen, right? And that's the reason where our experience comes in. Working together with AIs and being able to understand um, what responses can you expect when certain things are there. And until that, I do recommend to people, when you're building your business processes, ensure that there's a human in the loop, right?
Yeah.
Within that process, right? Whether it's a check gateway that says, I just send a WhatsApp message to the human, says, dear human, how do you want to proceed or not? But also it can be, and this is some of the things that we really explicitly tell the customers to put in, if an AI is not able to understand, right, what is it that it's doing, or what is, if it's not able to, one of the customers we work with, we are working on, for example, ticketing processes, right, for IT service management. Um, you can route things, automatically into a certain degree, but we, by extra step, we are putting things in, like, for example, if the AI is not able to understand certain elements or so, it must route it to a human, right?
Yeah.
To say, human, what do I do here, right? Because at the end of the day, if you just randomly allow it and say, okay, I will just guess it, you have absolutely an unpredictable AI, right? Because you will not be able to control exactly, okay, what is it that was meant to be, and what is it that happened?
Yeah, it's a good point, and this reminds me that, and I fully agree with what you just said. But this, just another idea came to my mind, and watch out, this will maybe be another provocative challenge. So you said that somebody with experience needs to like jump in at times, also have the guardrails. You need to have experienced people who are giving the guardrails and everything. Now, you probably also read a lot of analytics, and people are predicting that already in the next 1 or 2 years, like 40%, some people saying 70% of junior roles will be replaced by AI. And you only need very experienced senior people who are doing exactly what you said. Now,
So you
maybe
mean that
I'm
the future of the kids is lost because they're starting from zero? And
exactly. So now, being a logical thinker, I'm trying to be logical now. If you're saying we only need the senior people, the very experienced people, we don't need the juniors.
yeah,
How do you become a senior if you're never a junior, if you're never
yeah,
doing
but
anything?
I would actually go ahead and challenge you back on that one, my friend. I would say, the people out there who throw, I would say, numbers and figures out without doing, right. So without doing the proper, in German you call it Hausaufgabe, the homework, right.
Uh,
So yes, 70% of the people said that, but 40% of the people agreed on here, and then there was another 30% who went out and got out of the bed in the morning and actually did this and this
yeah.
and this task, and that enabled them to be 60% better. So
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You're right.
yeah.
But it's
No,
but
but you're absolutely
yeah.
right. So the question is, will AI in marketing specifically, because we are doing the marketing
Yeah.
podcast here. So for our marketing audience, is the AI going to replace entry level jobs? The answer is absolutely not.
Okay.
So I think for those 30%, there's still hope, right? If I was to follow the numbers from what
Yeah.
was mentioned by the people, that you got the inputs from. But no, kidding aside, look. Is AI going to replace certain entry level jobs? I think AIs will, in the short term, they will replace the repetitive tasks, what needs to be done. Yeah. The AIs will replace, for example, things which are rather simple, straightforward. people will need to adapt. People will need to change how they think working with AI. Why? Because again, coming back to the process, AIs are relatively they're thinking a little bit more logically, right? So that means that you need to have a different structured approach. You need to think in a little bit different way than you would normally think from your gut instinct, per se, right? You need to think about steps, right? What happens? There's a really nice video if you go onto YouTube and you Google, for example, or you do a search on YouTube around. I think there was a viral video around a teacher who was taking the instructions from the kids about how to make a peanut butter jelly sandwich or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
I've seen that. That's great. Yeah.
Or I think there are other parents who are doing something similar to that, to say, and as you can see, here the parents or the teachers, absolutely doing a wonderful job. So get the kids already starting to think from day number one in a structured manner, in a structured approach, and so forth. And that's the way the AIs are thinking. That's the way they're designed and programmed to work, right? And you can, by the way, if you want to be a funny bunny, you can just go and try it out with your ChatGPT and Perplexity. Give it some requests or instructions which are not exactly clear, right? And it will provoke you to think of something, right? To try to do something, and you will see you will always get an answer which is not exactly what you were looking for, right? So in this way here, the younger generation, right, will start thinking in a different way, because for them AI is going to be another tool. It's a companion which is working together with them side by side in order to achieve certain tasks, right? Now, here's the thing. Remember at the beginning of the podcast, I told you, it's not the marketing person, or it's not the AI that will replace a marketing person, but a person that's replacing or using the AI that will replace a marketing person, right? Why? What will happen is the following, right? So some of the stuff that we design for our customers, as an example, is an AI assistant, right? So that means, let's assume that you want to have certain information from Salesforce or from other CRMs. You want to have it from other ITSM tools or ServiceNow, or you want to have it from a SAP or other ERP system, whatever it might be. You need certain information because you're going out with your salesperson. Remember this marketing concept we talked last time.
Yeah.
And you're going out and you're making, I don't know, some kind of a pitch to a customer or something, right? Now, what will end up happening is, if you're on the way, you can get the latest data, you can get the latest information using your AI companion or your digital assistant, or however the terminology might be. You will be far ahead of the most experienced salesperson. And this, by the way, you can, in my opinion, will be the future of the younger generation as well, right? Because they will be using this natively.
Yep.
And that's going to be the difference. So the question is, are they less experienced, or are they, yes? Are they having less knowledge? Most likely, yes, because they're starting out and stuff. But the younger generation will compensate that with digital assistants.
I agree. This is a good thing that they're more like, not anymore digital natives, AI natives, or whatever we call it. We need to find the term. How about like doing, how do you say, being more of an adventure explorer, finding or creating new ways? So isn't all of this like stimulating a more risk-averse generation? I mean, you and I, during our life, in private life, and especially in business life, we tried a lot of crazy things, where some of them, sounded like a great idea, but at the end weren't that great. But a lot of that worked pretty well. And if you only like look at data that is already available and you rely on this data, I mean, how do you do new things? I give you an example. It was many years ago, and I was doing some TCO consulting. You might remember this concept, once invented from Gartner, and I was like doing this as like sales program and also doing consulting services and everything. And I was like doing a lot of keynote speeches on events, and there I started with a picture of, at that time, I was driving a very old, it was like 25 or something.
It was
I
a
was driving
Volkswagen bus or something, right?
with a van. You remember
Yeah, I
my old
remember that
van?
one.
Yeah, so I had this very old Volkswagen van with a lot of colors, a lot of surf stickers on it and everything, a bit rusty it was. And I basically used this for big audiences on stages as the first picture and for my kind of introduction. And I remember the first time I used this in internal meetings, there were 99% of people in that company said, "Okay, you cannot do this. This is crazy. You they will throw
Sacrilege,
rotten
absolutely.
tomatoes at you. They will throw you off the stage." And what ended up is still, I mean, this is 20 years ago, and I still sometimes every now and then somewhere in corners of this world find people who remember this, and this like caught the audience's attention, and this turned out to be like, if I
Yeah,
would have asked AI, okay, what is a good way to start a presentation, it was never
yeah,
ever have said, okay, go
do it
outside
like
of your
that.
apartment and make a picture of your old rusty van. so
Yeah,
so
yeah.
how do we encourage the younger generations to take risks, to try new things, to be courageous?
So I think this question is a very complex question, and I think I would love to also I would say touch on that in the next podcast or so,
Yes.
because I think this will be a great content. Because otherwise, we can go on, and we'll put all the other
Uh,
other guys who are already tired of listening to us for close to 40 some odd minutes. They will all fall asleep. But let me kind of give you this as a segue to potentially our next one, right?
uh,
Um, Look. So the first question is, I look upon the question that you've asked in the in a multiple question way, right? So the first question is, because the way the things are proceeding, are we creating more risk averse, younger generation, or are we creating a generation of younger people who are more open to taking risks,
mhm,
right? So this is one item. This is one question out of it, right? I would say the jury's still out, because we as humans, we have certain natural ways of doing things, our behavior, and so on and so forth, and then we are working on training on it, right? So by personality, as an example, if I was to follow all the feedbacks, the personality criteria says I'm borderline introvert, as an example, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm not going out and not engaging with people, not speaking to the people, and so on and so forth. So you learn it, you train it, and then you're adapting to it and implementing it, right? And this is, I think, the way we are as humans, right? The second question is, let's assume that you do have, let's call it a risk averse person. How do you motivate them from a marketing perspective, from a general perspective, to try new things, to do it
mhm,
out, right? This is the second part to your question. And the third part of the question, if I understand, is how do we ensure that the next generation, is also ensuring creativity, which is doing that. Now, this is the third one is a very interesting question, because if you think about, is AI creative, or is it just regurgitating what it has learned, right? I would say, to a great degree, in the current stage where we are, right, the AI is regurgitating what it has learned, or let's say an interpretation of that. Is it already at a level of creativity as us as human beings? I would say some companies are trying in that direction to have that creativity. Other companies are scared because they don't want the AI to be so creative, right? To have this called the free electron concept, because with humans at least, okay, they will stop after a certain time, because they have to go to to eat lunch, or go home in the evening and take a rest, right? But the AIs can be 24/7, right? So some of the companies are saying, well, we don't want the AIs to be so creative, per se. So I think there's multiple questions in your last
mhm.
statement, that your last question. But I think it's something which is coming. AIs will be more allowed to be more creative. They will be allowed to do and try different things and so forth, right? But for the current stage, a lot of learning is still needed, and a lot of learning is still involved, right? The advantages with the AI is that their learning curve is, or let's say their learning curve is faster, right, than us as humans. For us, it
Sure.
takes us, up to high school and then university and on, right? If you would only do, let's say, this studies in the school systems, AIs. The other advantage per se is that once you have trained a certain AI, you can pick up a second AI from where you left off the first one, right? So you don't need to start from scratch, the next AI, right? You create a next better processor or a next better compute scenario, and then you feed it the information or the learnings from the first AI, and then it picks it up from there, right?
Yeah.
And then you can duplicate it, triplicate it, and so
Yeah.
it's a different way of where we are headed, and we as people will need to learn it. It is what it is, as you say it.
Absolutely, and I just took a note that maybe we'll have a separate session on that, because I mean this we didn't
It's a whole
have
big
this.
can of worms, it's a whole big Pandora's box, and I can just see our audience kind of, clamoring at it. It's like some of you will
Yeah,
be simply sitting there going, "Oh my gosh,
yeah.
no." But other ones would be excited to have an open discussion about it, because I think we need to talk about it, because, as I said earlier, now is the time to discuss it, because now is when all the building is going on and
And
the
we
way
need
that things are
to
happening.
to to keep our minds and our brains active for that, and especially, and that's why I'm thinking about, okay, maybe we can get some guests for that, like leadership coaches or something, like leadership in the AI age or era, because one of the important thing is that you still like keep, well, encourage and empower people. And I remember that, I mean, in different situations over the last many, many years where you and I worked together, you had always like, you were leading your areas, your companies in a way that you encouraged people to take risks. Yes, they
Yeah,
need to be, you held them accountable, but you always said, okay, take the risk, have a good thought about it, but okay,
yeah,
if every now and then something doesn't work out perfectly, yes, mistakes happen, but only then you learn, only then you progress, and only then you find the golden nuggets. And this is kind of
absolutely.
maybe where we need to encourage leaders who are out there to also like keep encouraging, especially the younger generations, to try out new things and also like hit the wall every now and then. But through that we can all progress, right?
Yeah, which is kind of what brings me more towards our let's call it the closing thoughts and stuff, right?
Mm.
So how is AI disrupting the CMO's life, and if I was to kind of make my suggestions or recommendations, it would be, you don't necessarily need to be, the early adopters, and maybe you don't even need to be fast followers, but at least you need to have it on your radar, right? On
Yeah,
minimum, right? Don't end up being the laggards, because then you're completely missed the ball, right?
yeah,
Will the people using the AIs, they have a let's say an advantage? The answer is yes. In my personal opinion, they will have an advantage, simply because the experience will be greater.
yeah,
Do you need to plan for an AI? How you work with an AI? Absolutely. You need to think differently. You need to work together with your AI, whether it's a digital assistant or whether it's just using AI within your workflows or business processes. It's a different way of looking at how your processes work and so forth. Do your processes need to be well defined? The answer is absolutely not. Yeah, get a hold of
mm,
Christian or myself. We'll show you how you can actually work using agile methodologies, and to overcome some of the gaps that might be there or so.
mm,
So I think the marketing disruption is there, it's happening, and the CMOs need to ensure that they have that on the top of the mind, and using and working together with AIs
yeah.
is like working with any other tool that you have worked together with.
Yeah, absolutely makes sense. Fully agree on that one. So, yeah, so we can close this by basically summarizing. Yes, the world is changing of the CMO and of a lot of business leaders. If it will be a complete disruption and turning everything upside down, or it's more an evolution, well, only time will tell. But the important takeaway, I think, is that yes, look into that, look into the opportunities and the potential, but also AI, like so many technologies, will not bring us solve all the problems. It will not bring us free beer and peace on earth and everything. So we still need to
Yeah,
to be realistic and also like especially in marketing with business processes and a lot of different areas, like still need to get the basics right, the data, the process, and everything,
Yeah, yeah,
leadership, empower people, and then use the potential of AI. So I
yeah.
already made a
And
couple of notes here for like a couple of further topics that we can discuss in next sessions, and
yeah.
also we.
And let's
Um,
also, Christian, get the audience to give us a feedback.
yeah,
The only thing I would say is my personal opinion, my last words, AI is disruptive. It's not going to be just a evolutionary change. It is disruptive. And my recommendation is to the CMOs, get on with the ball and just go out there and do it, right?
yeah,
it's really cool stuff, and you can be really making positive impacts on your organizations, on your team members, on your people. Yeah, that would be
great.
my final words on that. So thank you so much, sir. It was a pleasure as always.
Thank
Looking
you.
forward to what comes next, and who are the cool guests we get on the show to talk about some of the topics and stuff. Looking
Exactly. A
forward to
couple
it.
of great topics will be. And for all the audience, to all the listeners who are still with us, you have the chance to also suggest topics and guests that we invite for future sessions. So thank you very much.
Absolutely. Thanks, Christian. Thank you, everybody, for watching this show.